Welcome back. This section, I've just given you a Daniel Goleman's quadrant because it's of all the emotional intelligence training and information out there, emotional intelligence, it's not anything to do with intellect. Some people are highly intellectual but not high in emotional intelligence. Some people are very non-self-aware, as we've just been talking about, the self-awareness and self-assessment. So I'm going to just talk through the quadrant with you and then take questions, because emotional intelligence, the definition of emotional intelligence, is a social intelligence that involves the ability to monitor your own emotions, to discriminate amongst them, and then use that information to guide your own thinking. That's the definition by Salovey and Mayer from 1990. There are some misconceptions about EI. EI is not about just being nice. People think women are smarter when it comes to EI because they pick up on the word emotional, whereas a right side and left side brain, I'm not going to go down that avenue. It's relevant, but women aren't necessarily smarter. Anybody can develop EI, male or female. And it also doesn't mean giving free rein to the emotions and feelings. So it's not about always giving free rein, it's about discriminating against those feelings. So self-regulation. So I'm going to write regulation here because self-regulation helps you become resilient. So there's lots of self here. Self-awareness. I'm going to start with the self-awareness, which is the top left-hand quadrant. It's an emotional self-awareness, so it's the ability to know what you're feeling. Because we have lots of thoughts, and we all know, if we've done the CBT, every thought will give you a feeling will drive your behaviour, for those of you that have done the CBT modules. What Daniel Goleman talks about is being aware of how we're feeling and labelling it. So, being able to say, actually, I feel quite angry today. I feel quite frustrated. So when people are given any kind of news, any trauma or any news that we get, the ability to say how you feel, not say I'm fine, not say oh I'm okay, is to actually be aware of how you're feeling. And that's not always easy. Depends on your background, depends if you were encouraged to share how you feel as a child, depends on whether you've been in a relationship that you're allowed to be able to say how you feel. So emotional intelligence is the ability to accurately self-assess. It's okay to be scared. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to ring up and go, I'm absolutely petrified. Not say I'm fine and then the emotions go inside. That's the opposite of emotional intelligence. And more recently, in the last 10 years, emotional competency, which is resilience and emotional intelligence, are twice as important as purely cognitive skills. So you can be highly educated, you can be highly intellectual, but you need to build, and this is a skill, and we've all got an element of it, we've all got some element of skill, we've all got an element that is about recognizing it, and so we start with that accurate self-assessment. But to do that, you do need the self-confidence we talked about. You need the confidence to be able to say how you feel. Because if you're not confident, you'll have these thoughts, and thoughts will give you the feelings. Feelings will drive your behavior. So self-confidence, a lot of self-confidence comes from self-love. And we'll talk about self-care separately, but I just want to capture it here. Self-love, and to even like yourself. Sometimes people say, I don't even like myself. So they need to understand, to build this skill, you do need to have that self-confidence to be able to then emotionally be self-aware. And again, mindfulness is only a tool that helps build emotional intelligence. It's a building block to get to resilience. Then we move to self-management, which we just into the next quadrant, is emotional self-control. To me, this is about responding, not reacting. So if somebody cuts you up in a car and you go off on one, you, whatever language we want to use, you know, people pull in, or if you're at a queue and you're busy and you're in Asda and they haven't got the right money and you can feel the anger coming up. That is the emotional self-control. So we talk about self-regulation. That's emotional regulation. Regulate your anger. It's very rare that you'll be angry at the right person for the right reason at the right time. You might have some anger from the past, but you've not processed it. You might, you know, somebody might say something, you think, oh, whoa, what have I done? But you don't know what that person's gone through to get there, yeah? So your anger needs to be processed. So emotional self-control is how we manage ourselves. Transparency. That transparency means you've not got a hidden agenda. You need to be transparent, be who you are, be congruent, be open, be honest. That's transparency. Be transparent. You know, don't say, oh, it goes back to the confidence to say it, because sometimes we don't have the confidence to say how we really feel. Or if I said, oh Shane, actually, you know, the fact that you're sitting there, you're blocking my view, most of us would not challenge that because we don't want the conflict. So that's also, be aware of that, the confrontation and conflict. And we'll talk about that because that comes under relationship management, about the ability to manage conflict. Adaptability. We're all human, we're all going to make mistakes, and it's okay. You know, we're not perfect. None of us aim to be perfect. And if we do try to be perfect, or this perfect person, or perfect mother, or perfect daughter, perfect wife, then we're going to fail. It's just about being us. It's about just being you and being comfortable with who you are. That's what I take about the transparency. Being happy with who I am. Yeah, no matter what other people think or judge us, just be happy with who you are. Achievement orientation is about having goals, so wanting to do well, wanting to learn, wanting to continue to learn. A lot of research shows to become resilient, you're a lifelong learner. So people stay learning new tools, new skills. It might be learning to play an instrument, learning a new language. Learning keeps our brains, our cognitive ability. So achievement orientation is always trying to do better than you are. Not perfect, but better than I was yesterday. So that you become the best version of you. That's achievement orientation. Initiative. I think everybody knows what initiatives, use your own initiative. People talk about common sense, except it's not very common. But that's different from being intelligent. One of the things about intelligence and knowledge is knowing the tomato is a fruit, but common sense is not putting it into a fruit salad. But that's just a way of describing the difference between intelligence and common sense. Optimism. Optimism's a difficult one because when you've just been given bad news or you've had some trauma, it's not easy to be optimistic. So it's not about always being happy, because we can't. It's impossible to always be happy. It's difficult to always be positive, but there's always some positive to be had. So optimism is just, even when things are going bad, you have an optimistic view that things will be okay, that things are here for a reason, that you can't change certain things. So to me, that's about acceptance. That comes back to accepting it as it is, changing the things I can, and having the courage to change the things you can, but the wisdom to know the difference. So optimism to me is, to be resilient, you do need to be optimistic. You need to know that you'll be okay. It's not looking at the world through Pollyanna glasses or rose-tinted glasses. It's not about pretending you'll be okay. It's about knowing that whatever happens, you'll be okay. So foster optimism. Okay, to move over to social awareness on the other quadrant. Empathy. I think that's something, working in the area that you guys work in, empathy is why you do what you do. It's the ability to empathise with the person in their shoes. So it's different to sympathy. A lot of people don't want sympathy, they don't want you to feel sorry for them, but they want the empathy. They want you to know that you understand how they feel. You might not have been through that, but it's empathy is showing that you can listen and you can empathise with them. And as Lynn said earlier, it's not always about giving them an answer, is it? It's about listening, non-judging, not criticizing them, and they want to know that it's okay. Empathy is quite a social awareness. Not everybody's empathic, but also talking about resilience. As empaths, you have to be careful that you have got resilience. You need to make sure that you're resilient, because when you're dealing with the people that you're dealing with, then they're going to take some of your energy. And sometimes if you're too empathic and give too much of you, you're going to run dry. As in, we talk about having a well and filling your own water butt up first before you can give any away. If your energy goes down, your water goes down, then you don't have any water left. So if you're running low on water, you need to just make sure that you're topped up to you, so that you can then look after others. So empathy, if you're an empath, that's what that means. So under organisational awareness, that's more being aware of the people, so stakeholders, being aware of people within the group, people within the team. So to make it relevant is about, we talked about signposting, knowing where to go and who does what. So having some level of awareness about signposting, what DRI can offer, what the different charities are. Organisational awareness is knowing, you might not know the answer, but you know where to go. So organisational awareness, and that also crosses over into business, into a job, knowing who the key stakeholders are. Key stakeholders are just people that you need to communicate with, basically. And then service orientation is just a way of looking at always being able to preempt what the next thing's going to be. So it's a social awareness, and it's knowing. So if you work in this environment, it's not second guessing, because that's predicting and mind reading. It's being aware of what the next step should be before it comes up. So service orientation. And then I'm going to talk about the relationship management. And this is an area that most people find this one the hardest when we come to building our own emotional intelligence. Influencing others. The ability to influence others is quite a good emotional intelligence skill. The ability to develop others, so if you're coaching or you're sharing people, sharing training, then developing others, making others get better in what they do. So a lot of coaches need to have high emotional intelligence. If you're a running coach, you might not necessarily be the great runner, but you could be a good coach. Yeah, you might not necessarily be skinny, but you might be sharing people how to eat healthily. So you develop and influence others. It's often hard, isn't it, when we look at people and we judge and we go, well, they can't tell me how to do that because look at them. And we tend to judge. So that's the other thing that this will help build. It's that non-judgmental mind we talked about at the beginning. So developing and influence others then leads on to the inspirational leadership. And you'll all know people in your career or somebody within your family or somebody that you've met that inspires you, whether it's a celebrity or whether it's just someone that you work with. You'll all have those people. Could be your wife, could be your husband. Inspirational leadership is different from being a manager. A manager will manage you and help you reach tasks and perform and give you feedback. But inspirational leadership is quite different. And we talked briefly on the conflict management. It's one of the hard ones. Not everybody likes conflict. Some people kind of deal with it very seamlessly. Someone with high emotional intelligence will manage conflict very well. Whether it's at home in a relationship, whether it's within a work environment, if you're at school, and remember this is a skill. So if you're a child, we don't tend to have emotional intelligence. We might talk about a growth mindset with kids. But even from a young age, you can see kids in the playground that are better at conflict management, even from a young age. They'll be the ones that be better managing teams later on. You can see, you can just see them develop this growth mindset. Conflict management is someone that's got really high emotional intelligence, the skill. Teamwork, collaboration is an area underneath relationship management. That speaks for itself. The ability to work with a team and pull on everybody else's skill accepting that we're not all skillful in all areas, then a great team is a mixture of all different people. And that's great teamwork and collaboration. Not trying to make us, so you wouldn't make a goalkeeper try and practice and become a centre forward is a good goalkeeper. Or if you judge somebody's ability, the classic one is if you judge a fish's ability by asking them to climb a tree or not, then you can't judge ability. So the teamwork collaboration is the ability to use your skills, be emotionally intelligent so you can tell other people's level of skill. So that collaboration is really important. If you haven't got the skill, don't be scared of asking someone else to help. From there, what I took from it is don't be afraid of asking for help. Not all of us we all think we can do it on our own. We all think we can manage, we've managed so long. Don't want to ask for help, I've got to be independent. Collaboration means it's okay to ask for and receive help. And then change. And we've just gone through a really, really difficult year. No matter where we are on these scales, no matter what we practice, no matter how much we think we've practiced self-care, this has been a tough year. On top of whatever else you're dealing with. COVID. High emotional intelligence means that they'll roll with the punches. It means no matter what happens, they'll be okay. Doesn't mean that they're not affected by it, but they've got the tools to deal with it. So it's not that some people managed COVID or weren't affected by COVID. We've all been affected by COVID. It's our ability to manage the changes that it's caused, whether it's working from home, whether we've lost our job, whether we have to work from home full time now, whether we have a low level anxiety already and then COVID on top means that we coped quite well until COVID. Some people that I've trained with have said, I thought I was okay, and I've done really well, but we have to keep topping our well up. It's not something, we don't get fit and run the marathon and then stop doing what we were doing. It's a continuous. Self-care is a continuous way to achieving resilience. Emotional intelligence is a skill. Yeah, I'll talk about self-care in the next module. So change catalyst. That's a very simplistic view of a book that's about this thick. But for the purpose of building resilience, I think I'll go back to the self-awareness and self-reflection.